Hello everybody and welcome to the OpenSwitch video series for the new Topology Modular Framework. On this video, we will be covering the installation process. The first step on getting up and running is setting up the directory for your test cases. In its simplest form, the only necessary files are the toxini file that describes how tox is configured and a requirements.txt file that points tox to the different modules we're going to use. In order to simplify the installation process, we have created a cookie cutter template called cookie cutter topology tests. This will create a repo for our test cases. So let's go ahead and select it. It actually lives on github.com inside the HP networking group. What we want to do is let's go ahead and copy the cloning string so we have it for later use. Now in our machine, the first thing we want to do is make sure that we have cookie cutter installed. So let's try that first. Once cookie cutter is installed, we're going to use the template that we copied in order to install it. Just write cookie cutter and paste the string that we copied. Now, what Cookie Cutter is going to do is he's going to ask us to fill in some information that it requires to fill up the template. I'm just going to go ahead with the default values, but you can adapt it to whatever your needs are. So once Cookie Cutter finishes, he's going to have created a directory for us, named for the project name. In our case, my test cases. Let's take a look at what Cookie Cutter created. So if you go into the directory, we're going to see several files that are very important for us. Uh, as we mentioned before, the two most important files are the toxini file and the requirements.txt file. So let's look at that toxini file. Now that toxini file has several important sections, but we'll get into them at a later video. For now, as you can see, that toxini file is the one that tells Tox what it needs to execute and in what environments does it need to create. So now let's look at the requirements.txt file. The requirements.txt file has the list of packages that we need to install whenever we're running on our test framework. So there are two types of packages. The first lists, which are here marked as code install, testing framework, and topology platform engines, have already been released as standard Python packages. So we only add them to the list. Now below there, the communication libraries, those are Git repositories that we'll cover more in depth in another video. Now let's go ahead and talk about the installation process. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that pip is installed, and using pip, let's go ahead and install tox. Once that is finished, let's go ahead and install flakate and pipate naming, which are code checkers that we're going to use later on. Let's go ahead and install GraphBiz as well. This is going to allow us to create representations of the topologies that we use. Now the next section is a series of commands that allows us to run our environment without using root. So we're going to create a group called Topology and add several commands that we want to execute without having to ask for sudo. Now we're going to go ahead and install Docker if it's not already installed, and the version that we need for the framework is version 1.9.1. So let's make sure if you already have Docker installed that it actually uses this version. So once Docker finishes, he's gonna suggests that we add ourselves to the Docker group. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Additionally, another important step is to go ahead and restart the Docker daemon. The only thing that's left for us is to go ahead and run tux for the first time, and that's going to go ahead and pull all the different packages that we just looked at and make sure that everything is installed properly. Once everything is installed, he's going to go ahead and try to run our example test case called test_villain. Now, one of the features about PyTest is that by default it's not going to give us any output until the test case finishes. So don't worry if you see the test case looks like it's hanging out right now. Um, he's actually executing, and there we go. We got a pass. Well, that wraps things up for this video. So we hope to see you in the next one where we go over the modular framework and how to work with plugins.